Heh.
Yo, what is up, YouTube land? We're back.
Spencer's still sick.
Yep. Sorry if my voice doesn't sound quite as normal. I'm sure it doesn't. Or if I have a little bit of coughing fits, I apologize.
So, I got one thing wrong about this game. I thought that when you change the difficulty, what it says fragments was your XP, because there's so many esoteric names in this game for things. I thought fragments was XP. But actually it's for just buying these, like, extra costumes. You get, like, more unlocked as you go on.
Oh.
So that's the only thing it really does, which is a little disappointing. It's still cool that you can customize your experience, and I'll probably just keep it like this, because, I mean, I've played this game a bunch now, and I'm pretty familiar with it, so it keeps it a little bit interesting. But
that does make speedruns pretty interesting, because I thought, oh, there's this
they would just
take. You would just set everything to...
If you're allowed to, you just set everything down to negative.
Yeah, right. Interesting. Yeah, because I that was actually probably the thing that drew me to this game most. I was like, wow, what a unique experience for a Metroidvania type game.
I mean, it's still cool that you can do it,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
it's not as interesting as I thought it was going to be.
That's okay. Still pretty cool game.
It's a little loud.
I saw a thread the other day, actually, which kind of involved this game. I guess I might have been like looking up information about this when I was doing the, descriptions for the videos, and someone was asking on a general video game forum, like, it was weird. They were like, how do we save Metroidvania games? And it was just like,
That's a weird thing to say.
I'm not happy with the state of it and blah, blah, blah. And, like, every comment was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
They're at their, like, best right now.
If anything, Metroidvanias is, like, one of the most influential genres for, like, indie games, like, ever. Like, there are so many Metroidvanias out there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even, like, games like... I was thinking about playing that one game called, like, Agony, or... No, not Agony.
It's not Agony.
Blasphemous. They made, like, 2 of those, and they're, like, sort of like Dark Souls meet Metroidvania games.
Okay.
Because I really like this game, I just wanted to play, like, more of it.
Yeah, it was interesting. When I saw that, I was like, really? And the funny thing is, the picture on it showed, like, Castlevania, Metroid, I think this game, and then something else, and I was like, but those are all good games that people like. What the hell? And it was nice, because every comment was like, I honestly don't know what you're talking about.
That is a very weird
It was a
thing to
weird
say.
take. Yeah, they were like...
I can understand someone being like, I wish RTSs were good again.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, like that genre.
I think their general thing was like, oh, they're too samey, they're too... How do they evolve, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, there's some evolution is great, but, like, a Metroidvania is always going to be 2D. It's always going to specialize in exploration and getting new abilities that can take you to new different places. Like, once you change that, it's not a Metroidvania anymore. So I think what they were really looking for is, like, a different, like, genre. But it was a very interesting one. I saw that, I was like, huh.
Yeah,
by the way...
Very bizarre thing.
Yeah, you said Agony. Do you remember what that game is?
Yeah, that's the terrible horror, like, demon game.
I beat that game on the PS4. It's the one... If you came to me and I was a bigwig at some publisher and you were like... And you told me the idea for the game, I would be like, within reason, fund it. Because it's just like, you're a lost soul in hell, and you're this lost soul that can kind of enter these damned bodies, like they're like almost like living skeletons, and you can use those bodies to get around hell, and your goal is to get through hell and fighting demons, and while you're doing it, you try to figure out why you're in hell, and what brought you as the lost soul there. I'd be like, bro, sign me up. That sounds like just the best idea. And the thing is, the game is a 1 out of 10. It's so unfun to play. And okay, I understand a game like that shouldn't be like fun necessarily, or bright or anything like that, but a game can be brutal and still be like, wow, what a great experience. It was It was hard to get through because it was so brutal and it was so graphic and it was so gory and everything, but it was what an experience. And Agony is not that. It is just god-awful.
Very similar to that game Scorn. Did you play that?
So I didn't. I was actually interested in playing it just because I saw it has like the whole, what is it, H.R. Geiger kind of like...
Yeah, very H.R. Geiger inspired.
Yeah.
Like to the point that that's its entire identity.
Right.
Point.
For those who are unfamiliar, I think he was the one who did the xenomorphs in Alien.
Yeah.
And his stuff is just like what hath, you know, the craziest things in the universe hath got rot kind of thing. And what's the term I'm looking for? Like body horror and all that stuff. And I was like, wow, that seems really interesting. And also, from what I understand, there's no dialogue at all.
Yeah, I would explain H.R. Geiger's work with like a meeting of like mechanical and life at once, in like kind of like a very horror way.
I am certain that the Wachowski brothers who made The Matrix liked his stuff. Even though The Matrix is much more mechanical, they definitely have that like human element in it, especially when you get to the later movies. But yeah, it looked interesting, and I heard that I saw that there's one puzzle where you have to use like this just god-awful looking tormented soul to get through it. And then you have this ability to either like sacrifice it and give it just the worst death possible, and then you just get through that part. Or you can kind of keep it alive, quote unquote alive, and it makes your life a little bit harder because you have to do a little bit more. And I'm like, I like stuff like that, but apparently the game's not great. Like, just more of a wow, what a good idea that doesn't work as a bit.
And visually, it's like amazing. It's like
yeah, it looks great.
They clearly put like almost all their time and effort into that. But yeah, that game had like years and years of development hell, and. It's clear, like, why, because, like, it's very impressive in its own way, but then when the game actually came out, because they probably had to, like, you know, like, crunch, and, like, we have to actually get this game out, and the game just ended up being just, like, kind of like a, like, very cool-looking, but very generic sort of game.
Yeah. I might play it at some point. I mean, assuming it's, like, $20-$30 kind of thing. And assuming I can play it on PS5, because I would like to not play it on PC. Those are two pretty big assumptions. But I might mess around with it. I probably even more than story. I love story in games, but probably my favorite thing overall is world building. I've played some pretty dang bad games.
Well, I'll definitely warn you not to play it for the story.
Because there is essentially no story.
There is a faint amount of story, but it has a very weird ending.
Okay. Well, I heard it was one of those where it like doesn't really give the answers you would be looking for, kind of thing.
Pretty much, not to give it away too much, but like the second before you might have gotten answers, the game ends. And it seems intentional, like to like. Give you like make it frustrating, but
like a Sopranos kind of thing. Yeah. The Sopranos ending, yeah.
But
okay.
It's I understand what they were going for, but it's like very unsatisfying too.
Here's my question of the part for you folks out there: why is it so difficult for shows, movies, games to have satisfying good endings? Why does it always seem that either they give way too little, it seems like that Scorn game is that, way too much, sometimes they just go like over and over again. Like for instance, here's an example, this is stupid. Excuse me, The Dark Knight Rises is not a great movie, that's the one with Bane and the plane scene and everything. The infamous CIA plane scene, but so it ends and you know, they're like Batman, Bruce Wayne, you know, sacrificed himself, and it's like pretty cool. All right, I accept it. And then they had one last scene where what's his name? Alfred sees Bruce randomly at like a coffee shop in Paris with a Catwoman, and it's like you done ruined it. Like you did not have to add this. People could, like, think what they wanted to think. Like, did he sacrifice himself? Didn't he? But adding that in and being like, by the way, he's also with Catwoman. Lol. It's like, that's just an example of giving one scene too much and just being like, no, don't placate the fans. Tell the story you want to tell. So anyway, why is it so difficult for pieces of media to do that? Probably the best, and I'd like Trevor's examples in this as well, but probably the best ending I've ever seen in anything is the ending for the movie No Country for Old Men, if you've ever seen it.
I have not.
It's...
You can spoil it, I don't care.
So, are you familiar enough with the movie where it involves that guy with the weird kind of like Beatles-style haircut, Anton Chigurh, going around trying to get money back that was stolen from a Mexican cartel, and he uses a one of those things you use to shoot cattle in the head. He uses that as his main weapon to get people. Anyway, not a lot is finished by the end because it's a story that just kind of shows like the ridiculousness of life. And all this stuff that happens just for money, and it kind of gets you thinking of like the cost of like human life versus money, and the cartels and how awful they are and all this stuff. And the older sheriff, played by Tommy Lee Jones, who even 15 years ago was old as hell, is talking to his wife about like how he's pretty much going to retire now because this was such an awful experience, and he's telling this monologue, and he's talking about this dream he had in his restless sleep the night before, and he just talks vividly about what was happening in this dream and how he doesn't say it, but you can tell it's analogous to what's going on in the story. And his wife goes, essentially, I forget the exact word, but she goes like, well, what happens next? And Tommy Lee just looks up at her and goes, and then I woke up. And the movie just ends right there. And it's like, literally perfection. It wasn't set out to be like, this is why stuff happens, and let me explain everything in this universe and whatever. It shows you this god-awful Texas in the 1970s or 80s or what it was. This sheriff that is at the end of his line talking about how he's just ready to be done with this. And then I woke up. And then what next? And then I woke up. It's so perfect. Doesn't tell anything more or anything less than it has to. And I think about that all the time. A surprising amount. For not having seen that movie in probably 5 or 10 years at this point.
Interesting.
Yeah. But anyway, out there, if you have a particular ending you think is perfect, or dang near it, let us know. Do you have any examples you can think off the top of your head for just anything in general that like you've played or watched and was like, wow, that's a really good ending? I know people really like the ending for Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Oh, I think people hate it.
Do they hate it? The movie one, right? I thought they like it just because it's so weird and crazy.
There's like
or maybe it's just infamous. Maybe
there's like two camps. There's the people that like the show ending, which like the show ending was like blatantly them running out of money, and the last 2 episodes are just absolute nonsense.
Oh God.
It's a documented fact that they just ran out of money, and it's hard to explain, but it's nonsense that they just cobbled together because they had literally no money.
Got it.
And then you have the other camp, which doesn't like End of Evangelion, which is the movie, because they're like, oh, it ruins the mystique of the original show. Like that ending, it's like, you both suck.
I like The Sopranos ending, by the way. I've watched the show in full twice. I've watched the ending scene probably 10 times to really think like, do I like this? And I really do. I really like it. I think it's done perfectly. I think people are still talking about it 15 years later. I don't think we need to know if someone was walking in to kill Tony, or if it was just his daughter walking in. I don't think it's anything we need to know. The show had shown ad nauseum that people in the Mafia get theirs. And Tony's gonna get his at some point. It just is what it is. There was no one that was safe ever. If it happened right there in the diner, or wherever they were, the restaurant, or if it happened 5 years from now, I don't think it matters. And I think that ending was awesome.
This is definitely one of the harder bosses in this game for where you are. In fact, I've avoided doing this boss and the next area. The next area is my least favorite in the game. So that's why I did like the crazy route just to make it as easy as possible. He really only has like a few moves, but the hitbox on his chain
seems pretty big.
Is so delayed and like weird.
Man, this is a huge hitbox.
Yeah, and like again, he only has like 3 moves, but it's just hard to like judge.
I forget if I just said it or if I just thought it, but this is chip damage to the boss.
That's most bosses.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of endings, if I may just continue on for a little bit.
Yeah.
So, the ending that I came up with for the book that I wrote, I completely stole one aspect off of James Joyce's book, Finnegan's Wake. That's the one that infamously is impossible to read because he created like his own language for it. So much so that like you just literally have to like almost consult like a James Joyce scholar after each chapter to be like, I don't know what I'm reading.
Yeah, if I had to read something like that, I'd just look up like the translations of everything that's said. Like, I'm not going to indent my life to this.
Right. And then it's like, it's crazy because it took him like 15 years to write, and he obviously was a brilliant wordsmith. I mean, creating your own, that's just amazing. Anyway, so that story, it ends with a run-on sentence that essentially loops back to the beginning of the book. So it's like a open loop where, you know, when the book ends, the book begins, and that's what I did. The main character in my story dies in the second to last chapter. Is dying, mortally wounded, and the very last chapter is like a page long. And it's just the final thoughts that are going through his mind as he's bleeding out. And he's just very, quickly it's almost like a light flashing before your eyes kind of thing. He's very quickly reminiscing, and as the page goes on, it becomes less and less coherent. It starts out in, mostly full sentences and ends up in just 2 or 3 word sentences, and then eventually single words. And it ends mid-word. It ends on the word and, A-N-D, and it just ends on A-N, and then the very beginning of the book starts on just the lowercase letter D. So I did the same thing as James Joyce did, where it loops back. So hopefully if people ever even cared or even understood the schizo babble, would be like, wow, I wonder if this all happened in this entire story happened in the dying thoughts of the main character, or if it even happened at all, because you know how they say your life flashes before your eyes and stuff like that. So
If you ever meet,
that's what I did.
if you ever meet Spencer in real life, he has a enlarged head because his brain is too big for his skull.
I have to use one. You know when you break your neck and you have to like wear one of those. I don't even know what you call them, like straightener that you put around your neck. I have to wear that because I'm like the brain from Pinky and the Brain.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's what I decided to do because I was like,
Spencer constantly thinks like TFW too smart for Finnegan Wake.
Not at all. I cannot. I own one of my friends. It was so. He like dunked on me really good because for whatever reason, David Foster Wallace's Infinite Jest, which is like a 1,000-page book, was in our bathroom, like on the toilet, like, you know, with like the, not magazines or whatever. And he was over one time and he was like, "Yeah, some light bathroom reading, huh?" And I was like, "I'm not gonna lie to you. I got like a chapter into that book." David Foster Wallace is like unbelievable genius. That, for me, the way you can tell, there's two types of literary geniuses. There's one like James Joyce or David Foster Wallace that can expunge a very small thing into a huge amount of pages. For instance, did you ever hear of the James Joyce book, Ulysses? Like, have you ever just like even heard someone mention it?
Yeah.
It's considered like a top 10 book of all time. And it tells the story of pretty much a single person, but kind of like a family in Ireland on a single 24-hour day. And the book's like 1,000 pages long. And it's not like it's not a bunch of BS like Ayn Rand's anything, Atlas Shrugged or whatever, where it just goes into nonsense for hundreds of pages and you're like, this is not cool. So there's that, and David Foster Wallace's Infinite Jest does the same thing where he like, I think it all takes place in Canada, but he creates all this like, all these very unique organizations and governmental organizations, and like clearly he like planned every single step out, and it's brilliant. So that's the one step of literary genius. The second step is someone who can take something super, super complex and make it incredibly short and simple. Something like some of Hemingway's stuff, some of William Faulkner's stuff. A lot of the guys from the early 1900s would take like generations of families, like telling the story of generations of families in like a 200-page book, and you felt like you got to know all the characters. You know, so you have Ulysses, which is 1,000 pages, and it tells one single day in the life of this person. And then you have As I Lay Dying by Faulkner, which is like 200 pages, and it tells of that's not a generational book, but it tells of like a long period of time and like all these specific characters and all that. So that's my take on what I like. Would I rather read the 200-page book? You got it. And then you have someone like Stephen King's It, which is, if you ever saw the actual book, it looks like the Bible times 3. And you could just take about a third of that, or I would say a half of that, and just throw it all out. And just watch the movie or the mini. In fact, throw the whole thing out and just watch the movie or mini.
You can throw out 75% of the first part and then throw out all of the time skip part.
There you go. And if you just get, I will say, if anyone's out there seething right now, and they're just ultra big brain, and they were like, you just said your favorite part of video games is the world building, but then you're dunking on Stephen King. Stephen King's world building is incredible. His ideas are incredible.
Suck though.
His characters suck, and his ability to be concise about an idea sucks. But there's a reason why like 20 of his books have been made into movies. Many of them into the greatest movies of all time. I mean, Shawshank Redemption is a Stephen King short story. You know, The Shining, all that stuff. There's millions of them. Not millions, there's dozens of them. There's dozens of us, dozens. But I would respect it a lot more if it didn't seem like he got paid per page. I don't know if that's how it works.
No way. He's just an insane man.
Maybe back in the day, when he wrote for like magazines, maybe they're like, give us 10 pages worth of stuff, and each extra page you get like 10 extra bucks. I don't know. Like in the 70s or whatever. Obviously, nowadays it doesn't matter. Especially with books being on, like, you know, Kindle and audio books and such.
So if you can't tell why I hate this place, it is a big maze. There's a bunch of status effects, mostly shock. Those maws just go all over the place.
Yeah, those maws.
And drop, like, things that stun you. And paralysis in this game isn't, like, the worst thing ever, but it does mitigate your, like, damage output.
My favorite medicine in the world, folks, because I know you're all on pins and needles, is that sore throat spray that, like, numbs your throat a little bit and makes it that you don't die for, like, 15 minutes. Let me tell you.
I mostly just like real cough drops more than that crap.
I do both.
The throat spray always makes my, like, throat feel... I mean, it's obviously doing what it's intended to do. It numbs your throat, but it makes it, like, kind of sting for me, too. In a weird way.
It does make it feel to me like there's, like, something, like, slightly stuck in there. But I prefer that to it than it being hurting. I went to an ENT a couple of years ago, ear, nose, and throat doctor, for something nose related, and they were like, "Is there anything else you have any questions about?" I was like, I was like, since I'm here, I was like, I get sore throats all the time. Like, you just take a look. Do you mind? And he was like, sure. And he looked in. He was like, oh, your tonsil's pretty inflamed. He was like, do you have a sore throat right now? And I was like, no, this is pretty normal. And he was like, yeah, so it makes sense why you get sore throats all the time if your tonsils are, like, constantly like that. And I was like, oh, what can I do? He was like, well,
don't people just get their tonsils removed?
Adults can get their tonsils out, but apparently, you know how, like, it's a meme for, like, kids to get it done and whatever? And then you get, like, ice cream and whatever, 'cause, you know. Apparently for kids, it's a pretty easy thing to get done, but for adults, it's, like, a lot worse.
That's nice.
Because if it wasn't, I'd be like, dude, alright, let's just do it. Because I get sore throats just all the time. Every time I'm sick. But apparently it's something that takes a lot longer time, and it's a much more painful process than when you're a kid. And I'm like, well, that's lame. But I didn't know that. So now I know that at least I have what I assume to be constantly inflamed tonsils at all given times, because life. At least you find out. It's frustrating when the answer's not a good answer, you know, but at least you're like, well, that's why. Or at least a symptom of whatever's going on.
My most annoying thing is I have a deviated septum, so I can only breathe through one of my nostrils all the time.
Yeah, that's also no fun at any given time. I hate all ENT things. I do
getting
really
that
like
fixes like actual surgery, and
yeah.
I was like, whatever.
I do like using those saline solution, like not a neti pot, but kind of.
I've
like
tried that so many times. It does not
work.
Anything. It's like physically like there's nothing clogged. It's just physically wrong.
Gotcha. I wish a world without pollen or whatever existed. And it sucks because I love being outside and I'm outside all the time.
It's actually funny because I remember when I would just like try out like Trev's hookah, and like you breathe throughout your nose like only one nostril, and it's like
yeah. I did not realize you have to do that, or you're meant to do that with hookah. Yo, anyone who's in their 30s, do you remember when hookah was like a big thing?
Yeah. I guess it's just been superseded by just like vaping in general.
It's gotta be, yeah.
But even vaping is like way dead because everyone's like, oh, vaping's so much better than like smoking. And it's like, no, it's not. In fact, it's possibly worse in some aspects because a lot of people that vape do it like more constantly than like,
right.
smoke